Aging isn't the problem, chronic inflammation is. And after 60, understanding this difference can completely change how you approach your health. Inflammation is not the enemy. It's a natural and necessary process that helps the body heal, fight infections, and repair damage. When you cut your finger or catch a virus, inflammation rushes in, does its job, and then quietly shuts off. That's how it's supposed to work. The problem begins when inflammation doesn't turn off. As we age, the immune system becomes slower at resolving inflammation. Signals that once faded quickly now linger. This creates a state known as chronic low grade inflammation, often called inflammaging. It's not dramatic. You don't usually feel it directly, but it quietly accelerates aging from the inside. You may notice subtle signs: stiffness that lasts longer, slower recovery after stress or activity, fatigue that doesn't fully resolve, brain fog. These are not simply signs of getting older. They often reflect inflammation that hasn't been properly resolved. Chronic inflammation places constant stress on the body. Immune cells remain partially activated even when there's no real threat. This drains energy and increases wear on tissues over time. Blood vessels become more sensitive. Joints experience more irritation. Brain cells receive more inflammatory signals. Metabolism becomes less efficient. Over years, this contributes to many age related conditions. What makes inflammaging especially challenging is that it doesn't announce itself. There's no alarm bell. It builds quietly through everyday habits, stress, inactivity, poor sleep, and unresolved immune signals. After 60, the immune system still works, but it needs more support to shut inflammation down. The issue is not that the body can't fight, it's that it struggles to finish the fight. This is why calming inflammation becomes one of the most important goals for healthy aging. Not suppressing it, calming it, guiding it to resolution. The good news is that chronic inflammation is highly responsive to lifestyle signals. Small daily habits send powerful messages to the immune system about whether it's safe to stay activated or time to stand down. Movement plays a role. Gentle daily movement improves circulation and lymphatic flow, helping immune cells clear inflammatory waste and disengage properly. Sleep plays a role. During sleep, the immune system performs repair and recalibration. Poor sleep keeps inflammatory signals elevated longer than they should be. Stress plays a role. Chronic stress hormones keep the immune system on high alert, even when there's no physical threat. Calming the nervous system helps calm immune activity. Nutrition plays a role. Certain foods increase inflammatory signaling, while others support resolution. The immune system listens closely to what arrives through the gut. Hydration plays a role. Adequate fluid balance supports circulation and detoxification, allowing inflammatory byproducts to be cleared efficiently. None of these signals work in isolation, they stack. Small improvements in several areas can dramatically reduce inflammatory burden over time. What's important to understand is that reducing chronic inflammation doesn't require extreme measures. It requires consistency. The immune system responds to patterns, not perfection. After 60, the body becomes less tolerant of spikes and crashes, long periods of stress followed by short recovery, poor sleep followed by overexertion. Irregular routines keep inflammation simmering. Steady, predictable habits send a different message. They tell the immune system it's safe to resolve inflammation instead of staying on guard. This shift changes how aging feels. Energy becomes steadier, recovery improves, comfort increases, mental clarity returns. Aging continues, but it slows down in meaningful ways. The goal is not to eliminate inflammation. That would be dangerous. The goal is to restore balance. So inflammation does its job and then steps aside. When chronic inflammation calms, the body stops aging in fast forward. Tissues experience less wear. Systems communicate more clearly. The immune system works with precision instead of urgency. Understanding inflammaging reframes healthy aging. It's not about fighting your body, it's about helping it complete the processes it already knows how to do. And when you give the immune system the right signals, aging becomes something you manage thoughtfully, not something that quietly accelerates without your consent. Chronic inflammation increases with age because the immune system becomes slower at shutting inflammatory responses down. And this change happens gradually enough that many people don't realize it's occurring. Inflammation itself is not harmful, it's one of the body's most important repair tools. When tissue is damaged or a threat is detected, inflammation brings immune cells, nutrients, and signaling molecules to the area to fix the problem. In a healthy system, this response is temporary. Once the repair work is done, inflammation turns off, the immune system stands down, and tissues return to balance. This on and off rhythm is essential for long term health. As we age, the off switch becomes less responsive. After 60, immune cells still recognize threats and still respond, but they take longer to disengage. Signals that once faded quickly now linger. This creates a background level inflammation that stays active even when there is no clear injury or infection. This lingering inflammation is subtle, it doesn't feel like swelling or heat. Instead, it shows up as stiffness that doesn't quite go away, soreness that lasts longer than expected, or fatigue that seems out of proportion to activity. One reason this happens is that immune communication slows with age. Immune cells rely on precise signaling to know when to stop. As circulation, lymphatic flow, and cellular communication become less efficient, those stop signals arrive late or weak. Another factor is reduced waste clearance. Inflammatory responses produce byproducts that need to be removed. When detoxification and lymphatic drainage slow with age, these byproducts remain in tissues longer, continuing to stimulate immune activity. The immune system interprets this lingering debris as a reason to stay activated. Stress also plays a role. Chronic psychological stress becomes more impactful after 60 because recovery from stress hormones takes longer. Elevated stress hormones keep inflammatory pathways switched on even in the absence of physical threats. Sleep changes further compound the problem. Deep sleep is when the immune system recalibrates and resolves inflammation. Shorter or fragmented sleep disrupts this process, allowing inflammatory signals to persist into the next day. Metabolic changes contribute as well. Blood sugar regulation becomes less stable with age, and spikes in blood sugar increase inflammatory signaling. When these spikes occur frequently, inflammation remains elevated. Over time, these factors stack. None of them alone cause chronic inflammation, but together they create an environment where inflammation struggles to shut down. This is why inflammaging is not caused by one thing. It's the result of multiple small inefficiencies that accumulate over years. The immune system is still capable, it's not broken, it's just operating with less margin for error. Understanding this is important because it changes the strategy. The solution is not to block inflammation aggressively. Suppressing inflammation completely would impair healing and defense. The solution is to help the immune system complete its cycle. That means improving circulation so immune cells can move and communicate, supporting detoxification so inflammatory waste is cleared, calming stress signals so immune activation is not prolonged unnecessarily, improving sleep so immune recalibration can occur. After 60, these supportive signals matter more than ever. You may notice that when you improve even one of these areas, inflammation related symptoms ease, stiffness improves, recovery speeds up, energy becomes steadier. These improvements are signs that the immune system is regaining its ability to shut inflammation down. Doctors studying aging now focus less on reducing immune activity and more on restoring immune resolution. The ability to finish an inflammatory response is what protects tissues over time. When inflammation remains active, it accelerates aging by increasing wear on blood vessels, joints, and brain cells. When inflammation resolves properly, aging slows in meaningful ways. This is why chronic inflammation increases with age, not because the body wants to inflame itself, but because the systems that turn inflammation off need more support. By understanding this shift, you can approach aging with clarity instead of fear. You're not fighting your immune system, you're helping it do what it already knows how to do. And when inflammation is allowed to rise, resolve, and rest, the body ages more gently, with less strain and more resilience. Inflammaging accelerates aging by keeping immune cells partially activated, creating constant internal stress on tissues, and this persistent state changes how the body functions over time. When immune cells remain partially switched on, they continue sending low level inflammatory signals even when there is no immediate threat. This background activity may seem harmless, but over months and years, it creates significant wear inside the body. Immune cells are designed for short bursts of action. They respond, repair, and then return to a resting state. That resting state is essential. It allows tissues to recover and prevents unnecessary damage. When immune cells never fully rest, they continue releasing signaling molecules that subtly irritate surrounding tissues. Blood vessels are among the first tissues affected. Chronic inflammatory signals make vessel walls more sensitive and less flexible. Over time, this reduces their ability to expand and contract smoothly. Circulation becomes less efficient, and tissues receive oxygen and nutrients less reliably. You may notice this as cold hands or feet, reduced stamina, or a general sense that your body doesn't bounce back as quickly as it once did. These changes are often blamed on aging itself, but inflammation is a major driver. Joints are also sensitive to partial immune activation. Inflammatory signals increase friction inside joint spaces and interfere with normal repair of cartilage and connective tissue. This leads to stiffness that lingers longer than expected and soreness that appears without obvious injury. Because the inflammation is low grade, it doesn't cause sharp pain or swelling. Instead, it quietly limits movement and comfort, gradually reducing mobility over time. Brain tissue is particularly vulnerable. The brain relies on precise communication between cells. Chronic inflammatory signals disrupt this communication, affecting memory, focus, and emotional regulation. Over time, this contributes to cognitive slowing and mental fatigue. You may notice difficulty concentrating, slower recall, or increased sensitivity to stress. These are not just signs of aging, they often reflect inflammatory signaling reaching the brain. Muscle tissue is affected as well. Chronic inflammation interferes with muscle repair and recovery. This accelerates muscle loss and reduces strength, even if activity levels remain the same. After 60, maintaining muscle becomes more dependent on controlling inflammation than increasing effort. Muscles cannot rebuild efficiently in an inflammatory environment. Inflammaging also impacts metabolism. Inflammatory signals interfere with insulin sensitivity, making blood sugar regulation more difficult. This leads to energy fluctuations and further increases inflammation, creating a feedback loop. Fatigue becomes more common in this state. The immune system consumes energy when it remains activated. That energy is diverted away from daily function, leaving less available for movement, cognition, and recovery. Another effect is increased oxidative stress. Partially activated immune cells produce reactive molecules that damage cells if not neutralized. Over time, this accelerates cellular aging and tissue wear. This constant internal stress is why inflammaging speeds up biological aging. It's not about dramatic illness, it's about cumulative strain. What makes this process especially challenging is that it feels normal. Because the changes are gradual, many people accept them as inevitable, but they are not unavoidable. Doctors studying aging now recognize that inflammaging is one of the strongest predictors of age related decline. It influences how quickly tissues wear out and how resilient the body remains. The key insight is that immune cells are not overactive because the body's broken. They are overactive because the signals that tell them to rest are weaker. Supporting those signals reduces the constant internal stress. When immune cells are allowed to fully disengage, tissues experience relief. Blood vessels regain flexibility, joints recover more efficiently, brain cells communicate more clearly. Energy improves because immune resources are conserved instead of wasted. Recovery speeds up because repair processes can be completed. This is why calming inflammation changes how aging feels. It reduces the background noise that drains the body. After 60, slowing aging is less about adding new interventions and more about removing chronic stressors that keep immune cells on edge. When inflammaging is reduced, the body stops aging in. Fast forward, systems stabilize, wear slows, resilience improves. Understanding how partial immune activation accelerates aging helps explain why small, consistent lifestyle changes can have such powerful effects. They restore the immune system's ability to rest, and when immune cells can rest, the body can repair, recover, and age with greater ease and balance. Chronic inflammation often goes unnoticed because it builds quietly through everyday habits rather than sudden illness. And this subtlety is what makes inflammaging so powerful. Unlike acute inflammation, which is obvious and uncomfortable, chronic low grade inflammation doesn't announce itself with pain, swelling, or fever. It settles in slowly, becoming part of daily life. This is why many people don't recognize it as a problem. The changes happen gradually: a little more stiffness in the morning, slightly longer recovery after activity, mild fatigue that feels normal for the age. Over time, these signals blend into the background. Because there is no clear event to point to, chronic inflammation is often mistaken for natural aging. But aging itself is not the cause. The cause is unresolved immune activation that quietly accumulates. Everyday habits play a major role in this process. Long periods of sitting, slow circulation and lymphatic flow, allowing inflammatory byproducts to linger. Poor sleep prevents the immune system from recalibrating properly. Chronic stress keeps stress hormones elevated, which continuously stimulate inflammatory pathways. Nutrition also contributes. Diets high in refined sugars and processed foods increase inflammatory signaling. These foods don't cause immediate illness, but they keep immune cells slightly activated day after day. Hydration habits matter too. Mild dehydration reduces waste clearance and thickens blood, slowing the removal of inflammatory molecules. Again, the effect is subtle but persistent. What makes chronic inflammation difficult to detect is that the body adapts to discomfort. The nervous system recalibrates its expectations. What once felt unusual becomes familiar. You may find yourself saying things like, "That's just how my body feels now." But that feeling is often the result of inflammation quietly influencing tissues and systems. Another reason inflammation goes unnoticed is that standard medical tests don't always capture it. Low grade inflammation doesn't always show up clearly in routine exams. It operates below the threshold of acute illness. This doesn't mean it isn't causing harm, it simply means it's working slowly. The immune system remains partially activated in response to unresolved signals. It never fully stands down. This creates a constant background demand on energy and resources. You may notice that you feel tired even after adequate rest, or that stress feels harder to bounce back from. These are common signs of chronic inflammation. Mental clarity can also be affected. Inflammatory signals reaching the brain interfere with communication between neurons. This leads to brain fog, slower thinking, or increased emotional sensitivity. Because these changes are mild at first, they are easy to dismiss, but over years, they compound. Inflammaging also increases sensitivity to other stressors. A poor night of sleep or a stressful event has a larger impact because the immune system is already under strain. This is why small disruptions feel bigger after 60. The system has less reserves. Doctors studying aging emphasize awareness because recognizing chronic inflammation early allows for gentle correction. You don't need drastic interventions, you need consistency. The immune system responds to patterns. When daily habits send signals of safety and stability, immune activation decreases. Gentle movement improves circulation. Better sleep allows immune recalibration. Stress management reduces hormonal stimulation. Anti inflammatory foods support resolution. Hydration improves cleanup. Each of these habits may seem small, but together they change the immune environment. When inflammation calms, the body feels different. Energy improves, comfort increases, mental clarity returns. What once felt like normal aging begins to ease. Understanding that chronic inflammation often goes unnoticed helps shift responsibility away from blame. It's not about doing something wrong, it's about doing many small things without realizing their cumulative effect. The encouraging part is that this also means small positive changes can reverse the trend. By becoming aware of how everyday habits influence inflammation, you regain agency over how aging unfolds. Inflammation is quiet, but it is not permanent. When the immune system receives consistent signals that it's safe to resolve inflammation, it responds. And as inflammation quiets, aging slows in ways that feel tangible and meaningful, allowing the body to function with greater ease, comfort, and resilience over time. Calming inflammation requires guiding the immune system toward resolution, not suppressing its natural defenses. And this distinction becomes critical after 60. Inflammation is not something the body does wrong, it's something the body does to protect and repair. Problems arise only when that process doesn't complete. Suppressing inflammation shuts down immune signals abruptly. This can reduce symptoms in the short term, but it also interferes with healing and immune coordination. After 60, this approach becomes less effective because the immune system already struggles with timing and balance. Guiding inflammation is different. It supports the natural sequence the immune system follows: activation, repair, and resolution. The goal is to help the immune system finish what it starts, not interrupt it midway. When the immune system detects a problem, it activates inflammatory pathways to recruit immune cells and resources. Once repair is complete, specific signals tell those cells to disengage. With age, those resolution signals become weaker or delayed. Guidance focuses on strengthening those resolution signals. One of the most important guiding factors is circulation. Immune cells need to move in and out of tissues efficiently. When circulation improves, immune cells receive clearer instructions about when to leave and stand out. Gentle daily movement supports this process without increasing immune activation. It improves blood flow and lymphatic drainage, allowing immune responses to complete naturally. Another guiding factor is nervous system balance. Chronic stress keeps the immune system on alert. Stress hormones amplify inflammatory signaling and delay resolution. Calming the nervous system reduces this amplification. Breathing patterns, light movement, time outdoors, and predictable routines all send calming signals that guide immune behavior. Sleep is also a powerful guide. During deep sleep, the immune system recalibrates. Inflammatory signals are reviewed, adjusted, and resolved. Poor sleep interrupts this process, allowing inflammation to persist. After 60, even small improvements in sleep quality can significantly improve immune resolution. Nutrition guides inflammation through signaling rather than suppression. Certain foods increase inflammatory signaling, while others promote resolution by supporting antioxidant systems and immune communication. This doesn't require extreme dietary changes. Consistent inclusion of anti inflammatory foods sends daily signals that help the immune system settle. Hydration plays a subtle but essential role. Fluid balance supports circulation and detoxification. When inflammatory byproducts are cleared efficiently, immune cells receive feedback that their job is done. Without adequate hydration, these byproducts linger and continue stimulating immune activity. Another important aspect of guidance is rhythm. The immune system responds best to predictable patterns. Irregular schedules, inconsistent meals, and fluctuating sleep disrupt immune timing. After 60, restoring rhythm becomes more important than increasing intensity. Regular routines provide structure the immune system can rely on. Doctors studying aging emphasize that immune resolution is an active process. It doesn't happen automatically once inflammation starts. It requires the right conditions. Guiding inflammation means creating those conditions consistently. You may notice that when these supports are in place, symptoms ease without force, stiffness decreases, recovery improves, energy becomes steadier. These changes reflect successful resolution rather than suppression. Suppressing inflammation may quiet symptoms temporarily, but it doesn't teach the immune system how to disengage. Guiding inflammation restores that ability. After 60, the immune system benefits more from clarity than from force. Clear signals help immune cells know when to act and when to rest. This approach reduces the risk of overcorrection. The immune system remains responsive to real threats while avoiding unnecessary activation. Guiding inflammation also preserves immune strength. Suppression weakens defenses over time. Guidance maintains readiness while reducing wear. This is why lifestyle based strategies often outperform aggressive interventions for long term aging health. They work with immune biology rather than against it. Calming inflammation through guidance changes the internal environment. The immune system operates with precision instead of urgency. Over time, this reduces the cumulative stress that accelerates aging. Understanding this shift reframes inflammation as a process to be completed, not an enemy to be eliminated. When the immune system is supported through resolution, the body experiences less internal friction, allowing tissues to repair, systems to coordinate, and aging to unfold more gently and steadily. Consistent daily signals, movement, sleep, nutrition, hydration, and stress control are the most effective way to reduce inflammaging after 60 because the immune system responds to patterns far more than to isolated actions. After midlife, the body becomes less adaptable to extremes and much more responsive to what happens repeatedly. Inflammaging develops when immune cells receive mixed or conflicting signals. One day the body is stressed and inactive, the next day it's overexerted. Sleep is irregular, meals are inconsistent, hydration fluctuates. These ups and downs keep the immune system guessing, and when immune cells are uncertain, they tend to stay partially activated. Consistency removes that uncertainty. Movement sends one of the clearest daily signals. Gentle, regular movement improves circulation and lymphatic flow, helping immune cells move, communicate, and clear waste. When this happens every day, immune cells learn that cleanup will occur reliably. They don't need to remain on high alert. Sleep is another powerful signal. During deep sleep, the immune system recalibrates inflammatory activity. It reviews what happened during the day and adjusts responses accordingly. When sleep is regular, this recalibration happens efficiently. When sleep is irregular or shortened, inflammatory signals carry over into the next day. After 60, even small disruptions in sleep can have a larger inflammatory impact. This makes regular sleep timing more important than total sleep perfection. Going to bed and waking up at consistent times helps immune timing more than occasional long nights. Nutrition provides daily information about the environment. Foods arriving through the gut influence immune signaling directly. Diets rich in whole, anti inflammatory foods send calming signals. Diets high in refined sugars and processed foods send activating signals. What matters most is not occasional indulgence, but the overall pattern. When anti inflammatory foods appear regularly, immune cells adjust their baseline behavior. They become less reactive and more precise. Hydration supports all of these signals by maintaining circulation and detoxification. Adequate fluid balance ensures that inflammatory byproducts are cleared efficiently. When hydration is steady, immune cells receive feedback that their work is complete. Inconsistent hydration allows waste to linger, keeping inflammatory pathways stimulated. After 60, this effect is magnified because waste clearance is already slower. Stress control ties everything together. Chronic stress hormones amplify inflammatory signaling and delay immune resolution. Calming the nervous system reduces this amplification. Regular stress reducing habits, such as gentle movement, breathing practices, time outdoors, and predictable routines, signal safety to the immune system. When the body feels safe, immune activation decreases. These signals do not work in isolation, they reinforce one another. Movement improves sleep. Better sleep improves stress tolerance. Reduced stress improves digestion. Improved digestion reduces immune activation. Hydration supports all of it. This stacking effect is why consistency is so powerful. After 60, the immune system becomes less forgiving of irregularity. It doesn't bounce back as quickly from disruptions, but it responds remarkably well to stable, predictable environments. You may notice that when daily habits stabilize, inflammation related symptoms ease without force, stiffness reduces, energy becomes steadier, recovery improves, mental clarity returns. These changes often occur without dramatic interventions. They are the result of cumulative signals guiding the immune system toward resolution. Doctors studying healthy aging emphasize this approach because it aligns with immune biology. The immune system evolved to respond to daily rhythms, not occasional fixes. This is also why extreme strategies often fail long term. They create spikes and crashes that keep immune cells reactive. Consistency creates calm. You don't need to do everything perfectly. The immune system doesn't require perfection, it requires reliability. Small, repeatable habits provide that reliability. After 60, reducing inflammaging is less about fighting inflammation and more about teaching the immune system when it's safe to rest. When movement, sleep, nutrition, hydration, and stress control are practiced consistently, immune cells receive the same message every day. The environment is stable, the threat level is low, resolutions can occur. Over time, this quiet guidance reduces chronic inflammation, lowers internal stress, and slows the processes that accelerate aging. Aging continues, but it unfolds at a calmer pace. The body experiences less wear, systems communicate more clearly, and resilience improves. This is how daily signals shape long term health after 60, not through intensity or complexity, but through steady, supportive patterns that allow the immune system to do what it was designed to do: protect, repair, and then stand down.